everybody that volunteers. And somebody says, well, he, what's his name again, Harold. Harold would be a great Santa. He's got the white beard and everything. What they didn't know when they went to ask him is that he was that child sitting in the classroom for years, and all the other kids would come back and they would talk about their Christmases and gifts and food, and that wasn't the experience. He was going to hell when he wasn't at school. And so when they come up to him and they ask him to be a Santa, something we could say transformative occurred, because he could go to that party knowing the story, the invisible stories of some of those kids and some of the people coming in. And he could be the Santa that could have a type of empathy, right, that he felt could make a difference. And so not only was he giving to society again, but he had a distinct waking up, that he had something that had worked through all of this difficulty that made him an essential somebody on the path of children and people walking in. Now, I love that kind of story. You probably do too, right? And what it emphasizes and I think in our unity way is that there is an essence in each of us, and we call it our individuality, that is absolutely the blueprint of the source, that is the imprint in all life, and it's what allows the greatest thriving, or what we could call the spiritual blossoming of the lotus, right? The spiritual blossoming to occur. And we're all here, wherever Scott went, we got enough years under our belt right now. I can tell you that we've made it this far, and that the spiritual blossoming of you and me didn't take a back seat. It isn't compromised in any way. It doesn't matter what we've done. It doesn't matter what we've done. It doesn't matter how many mistakes we've made. It would not matter that we walk through that door stumbling due to addiction. The spiritual blossoming is already working and guaranteed. All the great teachings tell us this. Great wisdom teachings. That there is in you and in me, in the unity we call this the soul. It's the individuality. It is the distinct soul, you and I. And it's like the island of Nirvana in the great Upanishad writings is indestructible. 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 We're going to go through lots of difficulty. And hopefully we're going to show up in prayer and say, why the heck am I in all this difficulty? Because this is so distracting, I can't even remember my individuality anymore. You ever feel like that? Yeah.
Yeah, people know this. I died on an operating table when I was 11.
I remember.
And it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I knew I'd still me. I knew that where I was, lay with God, as an energetic type force, no place, but I knew that I was still me.
Yes.
But yet I was still part of everything. And I brought that back.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. This is the evidences. We each get evidences. We may not have your experience, but we get these evidences of the soul. The soul. And the journey in this lifetime is like we're walking around with our costume on and our mask on. And it's what we call the roles. And Ramdas was great about addressing the roles. Like we have masks, we have roles. I'm a mom. I just did the mom role. I can tell you, I just did it to the tilt. Got a cat and a dog and everything else. But the thing is, we are not our roles. We can become confused by our roles. And Jesus addressed this. There's a really potent teaching that I went to in preparation for today. I've been going to it a lot lately. Like something's drawn. So that the roles can become so confusing we don't know ourselves anymore. You know, like you can, I suppose, walk into the doctor and the doctor says, this is your diagnosis or this is your prognosis even. You only have so much time. Or maybe you get to my last birthday and I'm thinking, I don't know, mortality's nipping me on the heels a little bit. So what happens in that is like there's opportunities to keep waking up to what cannot die, the soul of us. And that potent individuality is really by, I believe, great design, divine design, and Jesus demonstrated it to express through our roles. So Jesus ends up fulfilling a role, doesn't he? He has this role. This is the prophesied one. And there were many in that time claiming to be the Messiah. But of course Jesus was crucified for it. But he fulfills a role, and he fulfills it to the heightened understanding, spiritual understanding, which is one of nonviolence. And that's what makes him stand out from everybody else in that time. It's really something that, in terms of the collective, what Charles Fillmore calls race mind, the race consciousness, that is a light that will not diminish. Okay? He flares it out. It's like that amazing star in the sky comes through. Okay? That's the story of you and me also. And we want to live it out. So the biblical story that I want to share with you is one, how many of you remember the story of Jesus traveling through an area and there's a man that they say is so consumed by demons, nothing has helped this guy. And Jesus goes up to him and says, what is your name? And the guy says, Legion. Do you know this story? Okay, so this is a very unique story, and one of my original teachers in Unity by the name of Ed Rabel says right off what we should notice about this story that's different is Jesus is asking him, what's your name? And you don't really see that in any of those other stories that are recorded and translated, etc., 1,000 bazillion different times. This one stands out. And so that we want to notice from the metaphysics of it, what's going on here? Why is the character Legion being asked, what's your name? And it seems to be, and you can each delve into it perfectly, the response. So the response is, I am Legion. He no longer knows who he is. And this is the great tragedy of every soul, to get to a point that you don't even know who you are anymore. You do not know your divine identity. You do not have an awareness that you are distinct as a soul and that there is something in the universe that could not ever make a mistake and has not failed to bring you through your form, my form, in this lifetime. Okay? So in the story, here we have the stage is set to realize that this could occur. And the great Jewish rabbi in Matthew's in my teaching years when we were in ministerial school said in the Kabbalistic teachings, the Kabbalah teachings, the great mystery teachings, the soul can negate itself long enough where the soul energy can go back into indistinctness. And we don't often really talk about that. In the early Unity teachings, you can find books, and Charles Fillmore talked about reincarnation. Okay? James Philip Freeman wrote on reincarnation, which is an Eastern concept, reincarnation, right? But by the end of his life in his 90s, Charles Fillmore has decided that's not the answer, and we've missed it if we're studying that. There is something far greater to understand. Well, what could that be? He understood regeneration, that we are constantly regenerating that which we call the soul, and I would say bringing it to blossom, showing up for the divine assignment, full bloom. And what would that full bloom be? Jesus gave us the example. And there are others that gave us an example. So today what I hope we create is a safe and welcoming space where we enter into this ceremony and we understand that there is something happening through you and me that's showed up for this ceremony. Wow. I didn't make a mistake. That there's something in you and I that is ready to say, this no longer serves me. And it can be regenerated. It can literally be regenerated according to the blueprint, the divine Christ of you and I, right? Christ in all creation, but showing up distinctly as you and I. And so what we'll do is we'll enter into the ceremony, and you'll be able to write down on a piece of paper. Is anybody here that's never done this before, this little ceremony?
I never have, actually, but I've heard about it. But
Okay, so I'm glad. I'm glad that you said that, and that I'm glad that I share it again, because it's really not that I have, there's no cookie cutter formula to this. It's when individuals come, different ministers, different people that lead it, you just kind of hear what has worked in the consciousness of the person chanting. Okay. So the paper is meant to symbolically help us see the transformation. So that what we write on this paper, it's the first one to you. And there's no, here's what you should write. It's that, like, in this moment, in this holy instant, there's something that comes forward. And my best guidance is the Phoenix fire story, the phoenix bird, which is an ancient mythology of the bird that flies around the earth, taking on the woes, the suffering, right? And then comes to the annual nesting. Think of nesting time would be a spring. The birds, okay, and that something must die, that something must be born. So now we have Jesus. Now we have a resurrection story happening in the spring, right? And that something can be born. And in the story of the phoenix, and you can go to some of the classics, I would say, by Sir Locke, the Dictionary of Symbols, I would say that's the best one that I've come up. The nest is made of all these woes, these resins almost. And then with a great eternal flame lights this nest, and that is how the new phoenix is born. It comes out of the transformative fire. So when we, in unity, and it was attributed often to Ernest Wilson, who was an early unity minister. He wrote a lot of the daily words, working in the prayer department. He was just quite a force. He developed a lot of these ceremonies, otherwise we didn't know them. We were a prayer circle in the Fillmore's home. We had speakers that were going around sharing ideas, etc. Okay? And healers and the practitioners that were doing what we call the treatments. Okay? But this ceremony has the light at the center, and the way that Ernst created it, salt is often at the bottom. Why? Because we need the salt. So that what goes into here, what is actually burned in the ceremony, goes back to the earth as like resin and essence. The salt of the earth, without flavor, without distinctness, are energy that has no form, really, has no distinctness. The soul of you, the soul of you, this is the distinctness. And that even when the body temple is done, soul continues. So this ceremony then, in the watching of the flame, watching of the burning, is an opportunity to see and actualize there is a force that literally takes energy and transforms it for the good. Now, in the story of Legion, Jesus is required, Christ consciousness is required to cast out the demons. They have taken over. And Ed Rabel says, I'm not going to go into this a lot, but he said, but we have every evidence in mysticism that, in fact, there are experiences where Christ consciousness must come through. And Jesus says it this way, I have myself. So I believe this. I believe that this is a sincere truth, that I get to a point in myself, and it's like, man, I have to practice spiritual humility. I have to get to the place where I say, I have myself and nothing. And in that is like the opening of the door, right? And what I call Christ consciousness, cosmic Christ consciousness, is already operative. It's already active, and it does what I cannot do of my own self. Okay? So there may be great teachers, and there have been on the planet, that literally demonstrated what I have not demonstrated in my lifetime. But what I can tell you is this, that no matter what you go through in the quiet moments of reflection for this ceremony, invite the great way shower. And you can have your own spiritual teacher. Unity never said that you have to be a follower of Jesus. We just said, wow, let's study this teacher, okay? So when you go into the ceremony, you'll have some quiet reflection. You'll write down on that paper what it is that you're ready in your own way. Like, I just want to see this transformed. Why? The demons, as they called them in Jesus' day, in contemporary language, we would probably use Jungian psychology and say it's the adversary. It's the adversarial thoughts, etc., that go on in our minds, right? That they are cast out of the man in Legion, and they go into the innocent swine, the pigs that are there. And there's Jewish symbology and all of that, right? But what we want to know is that it goes into the animal nature, okay? So that it processes through the animal nature, and then they go over into the great waters that were there in that time, the primordial waters, so that when we are asking for this satyagraha, force of the soul, to cast out what no longer serves all of creation, then it can go into that great indistinctness, almost like my compost pile. So I throw the banana peel in there, and it loses its whole sense of shape and form, right? It just goes down to the earth. Why? To nurture. For all to thrive. Not just the humans, but all to thrive. Any questions that are coming up? Thoughts?
I'm wondering, and I appreciate everything you said.
Yeah.
Would it be your counsel that we would, I suppose that we have total freedom, but the point of it perhaps being to say an adversary or a personal adversary, whether it be a health concern or a mental concern, that's just what we're presenting to the players. Do I have that right?
Sure. Because think of what illness is, right? Illness tends to be given a role. It is not our soul. It tends to be given a role, and we see it adversarial. So when, in those early healing understandings, and this story of Legion is held up as a healing story of healing, that we are able to reclaim the individuality of the self am not legion. You are not legion. I am a child of God. I am a creation of the universe. Say that with me. I am a child of God. I am a creation of the universe. My husband's favorite affirmation is, I am happy, healthy, joyous, and free, just as God created me to be. That is the individuality. That's the Christ essence. Not sick. So that when we succumb, as I know we do, to, oh, well, I'm sick. This is why in Unity and the New Thought for so long we've said, be really thoughtful about what we attach our I am identity to. My body's going through illness. I am a child of God. I am created, right, to be the Christ expression. So yes, put that in there. If there's a relationship that you just like, you go back in and you can't somehow get back out of it, ends up being this kind of adversarial to the self. This is often what happens. Parents go through this. You become so kind of lost in the child and whatever their situation is, okay? Identity of self, like, well, I didn't express enough in my lifetime. Ed Rabel talks directly to the minister. You think you're a minister? That's a role. You have to get back to essence, individuality. And to know the Christ individuality. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? So then when we sit down, there's also a beautiful biblical teaching that is often held up about how we work in consciousness, where an individual is sweeping clean, like the household has been taken over by this, that, and everything else, swept clean, but nothing new is put in the space, and after a period of time, the let's call it the adversarial, whatever, the thoughts, etc., in consciousness come and re-inhabit. So in Unity and New Thought Metaphysics, we often say as you clear out, bring in that newness that wants to be expressed. We ask ourselves to discern and call it forward. Sometimes it's felt as desire. So what I've done is I've created the letter in God. I don't call it a letter to God because I'm very specific in how I use language. I don't use God apostrophe S. I still like God's ownership like a human. So letter in God, this is a letter in God awareness. I've given you some reflective questions, and then everybody gets a pen and you can start really going in and listening. What is that wants to express in my life? And it might be something as serenity. It doesn't have to be a red car. It's really about what wants to express through you. You have a role called Lois Jane. How's that soul, that Christ consciousness want to come through your roles? Right? You have a role as a wife. How's that Christ consciousness want to come through? So I'm going to hand these out to you now also. Did everybody get their pens? So that when we sit down after bringing the paper to the fire and the releasing, then you can sit down with this as a helpful reflection, and you can begin it. And if you turn it over and actually write your letter in God, I always, dear God, that's how I do it, dear God. Then we have envelopes for you as you leave, and you put your address on the envelope, seal it. And then Lois Jane, as the prayer chaplain, I've asked her if she would hold those in prayer. She'll talk with Brian, and then they'll be sent back to you. And that's just a way of realizing God's been at work all along. These letters are beautiful to see. Okay? All right. So I've gone through quite a bit. Scott, did you get yours already?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. All right. let's enter the prayer, shall we? And we'll receive the prompt. And we've got books that you can use to put under your paper. And in your own special way, sometimes it helps just to close the eyes, but if you're weary today, you can look at the candle. Move the heart to gratitude. Give thanks for so much in our life that has led us to this now moment. All our ancestors, parents, all those that have supported us in our journey so far. And first and foremost, we give thanks. That of many names, that of no name, God, Jehovah, Allah, oneness. Has created us to be here and to be here now. To rest in the quiet, in that prayerful way of gratitude and of asking what is mine to release, to let go, to stand forth, as Jesus did in the life of the man named by his own self-legion, to renounce call forth the light of God, light of the Christ. I am the light of the world. Reveal to us, reveal to me, where fear has dwelt, clinging, obsession, sense of lack has dwelt. Right now, upon this provided paper, that which comes to my mind and heart, and when I'm ready, I go to the flame, knowing that the eternal flame, the eternal light, is at work, right here, right now, transforming. The energy that has served me up until now, and now is destined, prophesies, to serve for the greater good. Did you get a piece, Paul?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. All right.
Fire in when we're done.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And if you want to stand there and watch it, that's up to you.
So, lost your plane.
Sometimes the symbology involves and help out. This letter in God is often supported in this consciousness and becomes revealed, over time. So we won't try to finish these right now. I don't feel like you're trying to finish something. But if you want to, you can sing along with me. There's a beautiful song. Keep writing if that's what you feel guided to do. And the song is in the songbook. It's number 322. I am free, I am unlimited, there are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited, right now, right now. I am free, I am unlimited, there are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited, right now, right now. We know that this freedom comes into our conscious awareness, lights our way, because there is that power that is greater than self, living through the self. Love and compassion, genuine serenity and peace, and for the power to risk and to sacrifice for the well-being of others, including the water, the earth, the air, all living creatures and all living things. We give thanks that we are on the earth at this time. No matter what we hear that tempts us to fear, we go on, we go forward, and we are supported. So friends, I invite you then to continue on. We're at our time almost. We're going to close in our normal way, but we got this started, got a thought. And if you would create added time today, ideally, why? Not out of fear, but because this has been activated. This is visually present. We'll see 1,000 images when we leave here. Legion. We'll see a legion of images. We want to sustain this with each other in a prayer circle right here. Okay? Just have a little something that I drew out this morning. Any questions about the letter involved? Okay, so those questions are meant to be reflection questions. I'm going to hand out an envelope for you, like I said, and the ministry's address is right on there. Like if you end up taking a trip or something, you can send it back inside another envelope, still sealed. And then Lois Jane and Reverend Brian. So I told you that I went into this file, right? And there were some things that happened right before Christmas for our family that were very difficult to absorb and integrate. But we are well supported. And this is a writing in that folder somebody gave me in 1991. When you come to the Red Sea place in your life, when in spite of all you can do, there is no way round, there is no way back, there is no other way but through, then know God with a soul serene, and the dark and the storm are gone. God stills the wind. God stills the waves. God says to your soul, to my soul, go on, go on, go on, go on, go forward. So let's join in a circle. I fully trust that when I go out, the ice is melting. The storms are calm. I want to thank you for being here for me today. I know you thought you were here for you. But I want to thank you for being here for me. Light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I know next week we start a series here, right? On the seas, overcoming on the seas of life. I wrote it down.
Yeah, the treasurer would probably like me to ask for a love offering.
Oh, a love offering. Oh, let's get the love offering out. Thank you. The treasurer will appreciate that.